It's April 2024, and we have embarked on buying land in the Philippines. And we thought we would just give you a kind of a rundown of our experience.
And how to buy land in Philippines.
Yeah, we were really surprised. So we're from the US, and so a lot of the things that happened during our land purchase experience, we thought we were surprised and we learned a lot. So we thought, why not put a video out there, let you guys know our experience.
Yeah, and of course, I'm from Philippines too.
So she's a U.S. citizen. So if you know, you're still allowed to own property in the Philippines if you were born there but became a citizen of another country. And there's just limits on how much you can buy. Mm-hmm. And we're focusing on residential. This whole thing is just about residential property. So normally the amounts that you would use for a residence are within that limit.
Yes. And I am not dual citizen yet.
Mm-hmm. So if you become a dual citizen, then that limit, I don't know, it just goes away or increases drastically or what. But we didn't need to buy, acres and acres or hectares of property. We just needed a residential place.
Yeah, based on my understanding, if you are not dual citizen, you can own in a residential area like 1 hectare, but that's only based on my understanding. But you could always ask your agent or your lawyer for that.
So we were really excited to go to Palawan, and since we have family there, we were so excited to not have to visit and stay in hotels or
Airbnb.
Very pricey Airbnbs.
So expensive. Yeah.
All the things we discovered, we thought you might find it interesting in your journey if you're planning on buying in the Philippines or in Palawan as well. So as I said, we were focusing on just getting our first residential property in this case. And so when we were there on a long trip, we wanted to look for land. Palawan is known to be quite beautiful, and
that's where I came from.
And so we wanted to get land that was overlooking the ocean.
Yep.
So when we were there on this very extended trip, we decided to ask around agents that we knew and just really get some candidate properties to look at. So we found a couple of properties we wanted to look at, and some of our criteria was we wanted it to be overlooking the ocean, and we wanted it to not be obstructed later on. So we know from our experience here in the U.S. that you can build a lovely house with a lovely view, and then someone else puts something in front of you, either a residential property or something even more drastic, or commercial, or mining, or drilling. So that was definitely in our minds when we went looking for property. So we found a couple of pieces of land, and then we found we were starting to look at the prices, because at Palawan, not sure the rest of the Philippines, but the land prices are constantly going up. It's becoming more of an international destination. It's getting developed more and more, and so of course all this beauty being developed, it's going to be.
And it depends where you are too, where you want to buy the land. If you want to be in the city or in a small town, and then that's completely different prices for that.
Yeah, we even found that during this transaction that there is a sort of I don't know if it's recommended or a set sort of based on the zoning. So are you way back in the jungle? Are you right there in agricultural land? Are you in a business area? And they'll say cost per square meter is, I guess they're just giving like a general number that's accepted.
Exactly. For example, you get like land for, I don't know, 775 square meters, and then it depends on your zoning. So they will look at that, how much for the price for that, like 5,000 or 6,000 square meter for that. So so it really depends where you buy your land.
Yeah, and when you're seeing this, if it's a couple of years later, you're gonna find that it's probably more expensive than it is now. Prices are rising. So we found that during the negotiation, we had our own budget. So we went in there and said, okay, this is about the amount of money we want to spend for a residential piece of land. And then there's this other thing to consider, this sort of zoning price that appears to be accepted. I don't know if it changes per year.
And it's very expensive.
So you can weigh those things. You can say, okay, I think the way we looked at that was we just said, oh, our negotiation for price per square meter was about what it is accepted in for this piece of property.
Yes.
So one of the most important things that we found was that the title, right? So the title of the land, someone's holding this title, someone owns that. And one of the most important things is that title has encumbrances or liens, or the title, the thing that you're going to get the documentation on that title, it might not be available to sell to you. So when you're in the Philippines, you have to worry not just about, hey, this owner has not paid taxes on the land that they want to sell you.
You have to be very, very careful about that.
Right. Or it could just be a straight up scammer who's showing you a title. They're not even the person who owns it, or it's photoshopped or anything. So the one thing that we learned was that even if it's someone who's not scamming you, even if it's a person who really owns the property, it could have these other problems with it. So there is a multitude of things that could go wrong between the time that you meet a seller and the time that you actually own the land.
Yes.
And so this was our big learning experience. So one of the first things that we did was we found the candidate land, as we mentioned, and then we wanted to know, in our case, for example, we had this overlooking land that was sloping terrain. One of the big questions for us was, could you even build on this land? So even if you complete the transaction, what if you come in with your architect or your builder after the fact, and it turns out
there's a problem.
You can't build here. There's a river running right through the middle of your property or something. So what we did was, before we felt comfortable even starting the purchase process, was we said we need to get someone here, like an architect or a foreman type person,
or an engineer,
someone to look at the land and say, oh yeah, there's no problem building here. I mean, just at least some kind of an opinion that at the beginning. Now we happen to find
we brought we brought 2 architects and 1 engineer. So that's what we did.
But we should say that some of the people were local connections, so it was easy to call people up and say, hey, you do construction, can you come over? Have you ever built on the property like this? But so we just happen to know a few of those people. But if you're just going into it and you don't happen to have local connections, really one of the architects, we just Googled and we said, hey, you're a local architect, can you come out and check this out? We might need your services later on if we buy this property. And that person just came out free of charge and just walked around and said, oh yeah, this is no problem. So we felt like we had more than one opinion. We had our local connections that we happened to know, and on top of that, we had this totally independent person we just looked up on Google who was highly rated, and they came out. So we felt when you start to hand over tens of thousands of dollars, you want to make sure that you can use it for more than just a grazing pasture for your kambing or something. So we decided that our candidate property, we were able to move forward. So we thought, okay, now it's going to be clear sailing. We have our agents here that are on our side, and we have the seller, and their agent on their side. Well, in spite of the fact that we had licensed real estate agents, everything seemed to go well at first, except that when we finally got to the point where we said, okay, let's make an offer on this thing, it started to be really different than what we experienced here in the U.S., where here in the U.S., the licensed agent is really there, and they wouldn't propose anything. Well, if they're a good agent, they wouldn't propose anything that would endanger or to be kind of sketchy or make you nervous about the transaction.
Yes.
Right? But we found, for example, their proposal would be something like, hey, let's write up a document, we'll sell it, we'll send it over to the seller, and we'll just put that you're going to give them 25% of the purchase price. Just give it to the seller, right? And so immediately, this is something that's so different than the U.S., where you have an independent party, where you say, let's hire an escrow service, let's put the money in this third-party location where the seller knows that they're going to get it, so it's there. But it's not just given to a person who knows if they're like just getting a plane ticket and taking off with your deposit, right? Or one thing that we found, that it's even possible that you give them, a couple of like 5,000 or 10,000 US dollars. And then it turns out that they can't even complete the sale because it's in their mother's name and her mother's name passed away and it's not even actually ready to sell.
To transfer, yeah.
Yeah. So there could be all these things. And then now your seller is holding all this money. And as you can imagine, it's difficult. Person could be all of a sudden conveniently unavailable to take your phone calls, so it can be really dicey.
Yeah.
So
where's that person now?
that's when we started to get really nervous. And so that's one thing that you have to be aware of, is that we felt that the licensed agents that we dealt with anyway.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
Different in at least in Palawan, Philippines.
And it's more like a sales,
more like
a
salesy.
full protection. They're not representing you. They seem to be very informal about it.
Yes.
So anyway, we really wanted to get this land, but we needed some protection. So what we decided to do was, and we were under pressure at this point because the informal discussions had been going along for so long that we had used up a lot of our negotiation time.
Yeah,
the seller really wanted to sell, and then we're like,
I think it took us a month.
It
was confusing. It was everything. It's just that it didn't go well with the agent.
Yeah. So we said we have to get a real estate attorney. So after we used up all this time in these unusual, getting us nervous discussions about how much money we're going to wire to the seller,
exactly,
we found we immediately went out and just Googled highly rated attorneys in the local area that had experience with real estate transactions. And we were lucky to have stumbled upon one. The first person that we went to visit had a ton of experience. They were very established in the community. They were doing different types of law, so you could see some of the cases that they were handling, that his office was handling. And so you felt like, okay, we found someone, he's got experience, he's very well established. And so we quickly made an agreement with him to sort of start to take over the mode of being our protector, the person who was on our side.
because you cannot trust the lawyer from the real estate agent or from the seller. You have to get your own attorney.
Yeah, and even our our licensed agents were so kind to suggest lawyers that they knew, right? But now you wonder, okay, so
can we really trust
can
this
you trust
guy?
them? This is somebody's brother-in-law or something.
Or whatever.
You don't know. So we wanted to get
somebody he knows, from the real estate world.
So we quickly we were comfortable with this, and in one day we said, let's just go with this guy. So we signed an agreement, and they, he had because he had done real estate before, he had a typical kind of agreement that he gave us. So we were kind of going over that, looking for some of the things that we wanted to be aware of, which is we know from prior projects that if you just have people billing hourly, they just keep billing and billing and billing with no limit on it. So one of the important things to us was to put a cap on it. Like for this transaction, the cap of X amount, you can bill hourly for whatever, and he listed his hourly rate, and his assistants had a different hourly rate, a lower hourly rate. But there was a cap. They couldn't just keep
charging you.
And as we move into the next stages of this project to build the house, we're also very aware of that sort of unlimited billing mode
exactly.
For architects or for engineers and other people. We want to have that cap in place. So we looked at the hourly rate, and then they would charge you also for expenses. So there was a whole way of doing business that we had signed in this agreement. And one thing that we were really surprised us was that they had an acceptance fee, meaning that you pay a couple of $100 US, and then there's
not even including the hours yet.
Yeah, we thought, okay, it's probably like the base package for doing the documents, and then the hourly would take over after they use up this base package.
Exactly.
No, it's just a fee.
It's just an acceptance fee.
Yes.
It's nothing to do with your hours that he's working for you.
40 hours of work or something.
Or talking.
So that he's, right, or something.
Yep, it has nothing to do with that.
Nice to meet you fee.
Yep.
So,
and it's surprisingly expensive, I mean, I'm not gonna see the price here, but it is expensive.
And so we didn't feel like we really got taken advantage of. It's just so expensive because we were in this urgent situation where we were taking off out of the Philippines, and the seller was under a lot of pressure to sell. And so we really wanted to just get it done. So we said, okay, so if we spend an extra $500 US dollars, that's just the way it's going to have to be, because we just need this expertise to come in and then save this transaction.
Yep.
You know? And then, so we were very happy. So aside from the extra, overcharging to some extent, that was really great. So now you have a guy who steps in and they say, stop with the informal emails and then texts going back and forth between various agents and the seller and us, just saying random things that they think of. Hey, maybe you should just give him a couple of, $8,000 to hang on to the property. All these crazy things stopped. He had a real approach where he said, we are going to have a due diligence period of, and I think typically it's 30 days or something.
30 days.
And the seller signs it to say, I am not going to advertise this and negotiate with other people while we are doing our investigations on the title, investigations of everything.
Everything.
They even were so thorough that the legal team literally went to the property to look at it. So the attorney had an approach. So it's an approach that protects you as the buyer from getting into this weird position like, so the seller has 10,000 of my dollars, but we somehow informally discovered. I don't know how you would even know to do proper investigation by yourself. So we finally felt like we could proceed with, putting your money down and then properly proceeding and being protected. And it's protecting both people, right? It's protecting, if you told the seller, everything that's informal is a bad situation where the seller, gives your agent their title to hold on to while you give money informally to every other alternative other than escrow, which we have a proper, a Philippines bank escrow service who's conducting this, or your attorney conducting this. Everything other than that involves a huge amount of risk to the seller and the buyer. So I don't know why escrow services are not more popular there. Our agents never brought up escrow.
Yep.
We told them about escrow. So I would say, that if you're talking to your agent, even when you're shopping, if you're getting anywhere near buying, you should immediately go to one of the very well-respected banks and inquire about the escrow service, get the cost and the time frame. And it turned out that we didn't have the time. So the seller was under pressure. We had to leave the Philippines. And so the attorney had his own escrow agreement, which costs a little bit of money. But at least you have someone where you have someone who's fairly respected in the community, where when you're starting to give tens of thousands of dollars, and when you wire, if you know how it goes when you wire money from a foreign country to the Philippines, that's like your bank's concerned that it's a scam. And it's a very sizable amount of money. It's not like $5,000. So, you can get the escrow service started, at least start those conversations, not do like what we did at the last minute, start investigating what escrow service is. Or it still felt a little bit weird, like you have one attorney in your life who's protecting you, but at the same time, it's not a bank. You're starting to send the full purchase price of that land to that attorney, and then it feels kind of weird to start sending that amount of money, wiring it from your
especially
overseas
when it's
bank.
big. Yep.
Yeah.
So we want to share our experience to you guys, because who knows, one of you here might buy land the same as what our experience in Philippines.
It's a dangerous world buying land in the Philippines,
especially when it comes with a lot of money involved.
Even the deposit of, like the US
dangerous.
Dollars or Canadian dollars or whatever, when you translate that, it's like years and years worth of income for people. So there's that thing where, scammers start to get involved and they try to give you some money, and then
so be very, very careful and do not trust anybody.
So start early. And even though you might think, I think the total fees start to get up there. I would say if you, $2,000 US dollars or $1,000 US dollars, even though whatever fee you see on your attorney and whatever cap you put on your attorney, that money is money well spent. Because if you get a good attorney like we did, they are scouring the
Everything,
local government
yep.
offices. And like I said, they literally, I was so
They
surprised.
check for the title. If it's
Yeah.
a clean title, everything, they had to check that in a government.
And when they write the agreement or when they write the offer to the seller, it is not this informal thing that, I don't know what your experience with the licensed agents are in the Philippines, but our licensed agents, they did not look for like scams or anything like that, or if there's a problem with the title, they just ready to sign the papers and start sending money back and forth. So
Yes.
even though you say, I don't want to spend, I don't know, $1,000 US, $2,000 US for a real attorney, believe me, there's no other way to do it, because I couldn't find, even being
Yeah.
careful is not going to cut it.
Yep.
You can probably lose like $10,000 and then you can't get in touch with somebody.
Exactly.
Or you'll never get your land.
Yep.
Someone put their money, they spend your money, and then they're showing you this title or something that it can't be sold because it belongs to their, deceased grandmother or
Yeah.
something. I mean, even if they wanted to do it, they can't do it.
Exactly.
So it's the
our
only way to go.
our advice is to find a good attorney, and of course to not charge you extra charge too, and just be very, very careful about that too. What is that fee again? Yeah, acceptance fee. You
Yes.
really have to be clear on that.
What does this acceptance fee do? Do you get
Yes.
10 hours of work with that? No, it's just a fee to say
it's just
hello.
yep, exactly.
And we're
So,
accepting
yeah.
fees. We're accepting acceptance fees too, if anyone, just to pay for us to do nothing.
Yeah, we were really surprised. It was a big amount of money too. It's not just hundreds. It's like big money for the acceptance fee. So
But
yeah,
we probably didn't lose tens of thousands of dollars
Mm-hmm.
because of some problem of somebody running away with their money.
yep.
So
So anyway,
yeah, so follow that. If you're starting, we hope we gave you you didn't have to learn the hard way like what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And we got nervous enough, thank goodness, we didn't start transferring money. But if you're in that situation, just do yourself a favor, spend a little bit of money and get that thing checked out. Have somebody on your side, escrow service and or attorney. And then we're gonna, now we finished this very interesting land purchase.
Yeah.
The next step is really
we're just waiting for that title to transfer in my name right
Yeah.
now.
And we're not under
the
we're not,
attorney, it's processing. He's the one who's doing the process. We give him permission for doing the special power of attorney.
yeah. So he can sign
So he
things.
can sign
and get
everything.
done.
So anyway, so that's our advice. So please find a good attorney for yourself before you purchasing land in anywhere in Philippines. It could be dangerous. It could be, a lot of problem and headaches. So yeah, if you follow what we said, you will be fine.
Yeah.
And anyway, we're excited
we're excited on the next steps.
So our next step to build our house and in Palawan next year. Hopefully next year.
The only thing we're doing now is we're protecting the property by a temporary
Fence.
We didn't put up the big walls that you typically see on properties because we're going to have construction there, but we at least put the temporary fence so we don't have any issues with squatters moving onto the land and so forth. And we're kind of clearing it a little bit. The next thing you'll see, we're gonna select our architect
to do that design.
Right, and so we're going through this process of selecting them, but we're not under pressure to start building or anything.
So if you have somebody, a good architect that we could rely on from Palawan or Palawan, Philippines, comment down below, and that could be really, really helpful for us too.
Yeah, we're just out here doing our best to do our own research, but if you have any knowledge on this, we certainly appreciate anything that you could give us. So maybe that's it for now.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for watching our our video. Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon.
See you soon.